Hello, and welcome to the Lightworker Diaries, a space for reflection, truth-telling, and soulful remembering. My name is Tiffany, and I am a truth teller, a mystic, and a mirror. These are transmissions from my heart to yours, an archive of channeled wisdom, lived stories, and the real work of becoming. May something in here stir something in you. Hello, my friend, and welcome back to the Lightworker Diaries. I was recently on Threads, and I saw someone asked a question, and as I was reading through the comments, I realized that the question she asked was so big, people didn't know how to answer. And the question was about quantum leaps. I'm going to read it to you. It says, okay, so who actually knows how to quantum leap? Because I keep hearing change your identity, raise your vibration, become the future version of you, but how? What was the one thing that you did that made everything start shifting for you? I'm taking notes because I'm ready for my next chapter. And it was really fascinating to read through. A lot of people basically regurgitate her question back to her. Future self-identity, get into the vibration. But no one gave a concrete example or really explained what's happening in a quantum leap. And that made me realize I want to explain what I've come to learn about quantum leaps, along with the one piece most people miss and why it tends to not work. And this is something you have actually seen. I have spoken about quantum leaps on a couple episodes here. And so I want you to just listen along and see if you notice the part that I was missing. And maybe you crack the code right alongside me. So let's talk about what quantum leaping is to begin with. First, it is rooted in quantum physics. This is actual physics. This isn't the spirituality woo-woo side. This is tested, tried by scientists, proven information. And what they have determined is that an electron can jump from one energy level to another instantaneously. Not gradually, not linearly, literally can disappear from one state and drop into the other. And there's a whole other realm of parallel universes that I'm not going to get into here. We're going to stay in this little lane of quantum leaps for the moment. But if that's of interest, go check it out. So when we're talking about the quantum leap, we're talking about this electron, this energy, this embodiment that disappears from one space and reappears in the other. If you have heard of now I'm going to draw a blank on the name. It was an experiment done where there were particles, double slit experiment, particles sent through a board. And when they just sent it through, they noticed on the other side of the board that had two slits in it that a certain pattern emerged. And then they had somebody watch the experiment happen and predict what they thought the pattern would be. And that observation changed the pattern of how the particles moved. So this basically started to, from a scientific perspective, explain that energy changes as it's observed. And so the manifestation community has taken that information, and that is why visualization is now such a thing. In essence, we take our minds, we create an image of what we want to be true, and the energy field, our reality, changes to match that observation in the mind. It's exactly what was happening with the double slit experiment. Oh my gosh, the double slit experiment. We are using our ability to project our observation into the world to change the reality around us. And this is proven by science. So a lot of people think, oh, manifestation is so woo, quantum leaps are so woo. It's actually physics. It's proven. So let's drop into how to bridge these two fields, because people hear the double slit experiment and they're like, yep, logically that makes sense. Great. And then they watch these manifestation teachers talk about, visualize the reality that you want, visualize your dream. Become the identity, get into the frequency of it. And that's where things start to get a little wobbly. And I think the piece that a lot of people actually miss is the translation. We can sit down and we can watch the double slit experiment and go, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But when we try to apply it for ourselves in the way that we want to experience the world, there's some friction that happens. So let's walk through each of the steps, including the one that I see people missed most, as well as the one that I often personally skip. So we start with the visualization, right? Let's imagine that your future self, actually, let's use the example that I have been going through, right? I decided beginning of the year, I was going to quantum leap to become a writer. I think it's actually the first episode of this podcast. If you haven't listened to it, maybe go back and listen. I decided I was going to quantum leap to become a writer. And so at the time, I was an employee. I was working at a corporation. I was in a leadership position. I was moving through the world as an employee. And I had decided I want to now move through the world as a writer. So you can see that there is a huge shift in the identity of what I had chosen. Employee, creative, right? Before and after. So when you start to visualize, you start to tap into a future version of yourself, a timeline that you can imagine in your mind, and you start to notice, what does the writer identity, the completed quantum leap, what does the writer identity do? Who is she? How does she act? What is her frequency? What are the emotional states? How does she move through her day? And so by visualizing, you are starting to create an observation of your reality that the energy in your field then has to shift and change to adapt to, right? So you use this visualization to start to change the energy field. Okay, that's first step. What comes after that is the part that tends to get garbled. Because as you're observing this visualization, yes, you're changing the energy field, but there are steps that you have to take from point A to point B in order to materialize this energy field that you are now observing, right? So as an example, for me to go from an employee to a creative, I had to quit my job. I had to get clear on what kind of writer I was. I had to identify the audience, the readership that I wanted to have. I had to figure out where they were located. I had to figure out what they wanted to learn from me. I had to learn marketing. I had to learn sales. I had to learn writing skills. I had to do certain actions that supported becoming the identity of the writer in order to further anchor my desire into the physical 3D realm in which we live. So if I would have just stayed in visualization space, yes, energy would have begun to shift. But if I never quit my job, I would remain an employee, right? So the part that I think a lot of people miss is the aligned action. They love to be in that visualization space because it feels really good. But the practical application of embodying the energy state in this reality is incredibly uncomfortable. If you've never done content creation and suddenly you have to put your face on a screen for lots of people to see, you have to work through that. You have to prepare your nervous system. You have to figure out how to record a video. You have to figure out how to edit a video. You have to figure out how to create content that creates attention and curiosity. Those are all things that come with this identity that you're moving towards, but they're scarier because they're felt. And so people tend to stay in their visualization, thinking good thoughts, feeling good feels, praying for the best, because they don't want to do the uncomfortable parts that requires them to change how they've been showing up in the world. So they stay stuck in the first identity, dreaming about the second one, and wondering why it's not working. So let's dive into my own personal example, because I think this is going to really help solidify not only the process, but you're going to see where I messed up. You're going to see where I got in my own way. So going back, I was visualizing as an employee, I was visualizing being a writer. And part of me really, truly did think if I just do my mantras, if I just do my visualization, I'm already writing, it's going to all fall into place. The universe will provide, right? All I have to do is receive. But then my sweet little logical mind said, we have never done this before. We have never asked our creativity to be the thing that people pay us for. People pay us for our logic. People pay us to get a lot of shit done in a little bit of time. People pay us to handle the challenges and to run their businesses and to grow the things that they desire. People have paid us a lot of money for that. But no one has paid us for who we truly are. And so even though I was doing all of my visualizations and I'm like, I'm going to become a writer, this is fantastic. And I think I started with saying I was going to have 1,000 subscribers. And I honestly thought that was just going to happen overnight because there was part of me that's like, I mean, it's just the energy field. It makes my content more magnetic and people will be magnetized by it and they'll just want to read it and it will be great. I never tuned in to my future self to make decisions. I visualized, then I went about my day. And as I moved about my day, I let logic make every single decision because that's exactly how I had been operating for the last 45 years. And logic does something brilliant. It keeps you safe. It knows what's happened in the past. It knows what it sees out in the world, and it does everything that it possibly can to make sure you survive. And so my mind did exactly what it was supposed to do, and it went into overdrive, trying to replace my salary as quickly as possible in the ways that only it knew were possible. And although it made sense, I basically went on a bazillion goose chases. Divine detours. Because I had forgotten to tune into my future self, ask her what's the path that collapses the timeline, and move from intuition. Yeah, I know. I'm highly intuitive and I still didn't get it right. But that was very much on purpose. What I think about when I look back, I've done this once before. I have left corporate once before. I was a life coach and I was doing events for women and retreats. And for 4 years, I banged my head against the wall. And then I finally gave up. And Spirit at the time said, we need to put you back in a space where you're just going to be provided for. You can learn some skills, but you're going to be provided for. We're going to let you rest for a little bit and do something different to clear your mind, clear your energy field, and then we're going to come back. But it took me 4 years to finally surrender. And by the time I surrendered, Spirit was like, oh, we need to get you back to neutral. We need some rest for this one. I have dug what feels like a deeper, faster, messier hole in 6 months than I previously did in 4. And I'm celebrating that because that means I am faster and more powerful than I was before. And some people might look at this and be like, you're in even more trouble than you were 4 years ago. If you look at it that way, if that's your chosen observation, yes, that's in fact true. But that's not my chosen observation. I am choosing to believe that the pace at which I have moved this time around means that I can come out of where this hole is that I've dug even faster. This is going to be so fascinating. You're going to love this. It took me 4 years to surrender. And I had done some things that financially I wasn't proud of. I had some credit card debt that I wasn't proud of. And I went and got a job. That's where my intuition led me when I finally surrendered. In 4 years, first 4 years, dug the hole. Second 4 years working, I more than replaced all of the money that I had used to dig the hole to begin with. So 4 years in, 4 years out, right? Fantastic. So there is a part of me that's like, I mean, if we're looking at patterns, first time I did this, it was 4 months in, 4 months out. 4 months. 4 years in, 4 years out. Now I'm looking at my pattern. I have already surrendered. I have already made my list to the universe. I have already decided, and I've already connected this dot of where I was moving from logic instead of intuition, and I have shifted that, and I can feel the energy changing. And I'm seeing the difference in my reality because I know where to make the right decision from now. And my thought is, why couldn't this all just change in under 6 months? If that was my last pattern, it's got to be this or better. And so now, as I'm looking at this next quantum leap, I'm connecting to my future self who already has the reality that she wants, the writer, the successful, paid creative. And I'm using that version of me to make every single decision, not logic, purely heart. And that requires me to go a lot slower because my logical muscles they're like Alex Hermosi. They're just beefy. They've been working out hard, and you can tell. But my intuition, she's still a little bit of a whisper. I hear her. I know her. But if I don't pause to give her a little bit of space, she doesn't barge in. She's patient with me. I have to receive her wisdom. I have to tell her she has my ear. And so as we move forward, this is the part that I think people miss is they're just in that visualization space, but they're forgetting to take the aligned action. And I almost hesitate to use that phrase because I feel like it's so overused and people are like, oh yeah, aligned action, whatever. But it's the hard parts, the action that is aligned but makes you uncomfortable that people often resist. If you've always been an employee, going out and being a salesperson is scary. If you've always been an employee, going out and figuring out content creation is a new skill. And it's a skill that's going to stretch you and change you. But if you don't do it, you're not going to get to the state that you want. It's a initiation that you have to pass through. And I will tell you right now, I am going through that initiation. I am learning marketing. I am learning sales. I am learning content creation. There is part of me that is resisting it because I'm like, I don't want to change who I am. But as I said in the previous episode, it's not that. It's a structure that you get to play in and play on, right? Imagine a playground. If there were no structures to play in, if it was just a field, the level of fun would be different. But instead, people have gone ahead and they've built these structures, these ways of marketing, these ways of selling, and you get to go play on them. Maybe you love the jungle gym. Go play on the jungle gym all day long. If that's your perfect expression, great. Maybe you love the swings. Go play on the swings. If that's your expression, great. You don't have to go on the slide if you don't want to go on the slide, but you have to be in the playground. So let me give you one more visualization because I think this kind of wraps it up in a nice bow, right? So let's imagine your quantum leap is to have the best steak of your life. And I don't know why I picked steak. I don't even eat steak, but that's the example. So you would like to taste the best steak of your life. And so you're sitting at home and you're visualizing and you can feel your mouth watering and it's just like, oh, this is going to be the best freaking steak I've ever eaten. That steak exists in the world. It does. But if you never go out and buy it, you're never going to taste it. Your mind created the steak. It now exists in the reality. But if you don't order it, buy it, go find it, you will never have it. If you just sit home in visualization and repeating to yourself, I just ate the most delicious steak. I'm so grateful. I am so thankful for the most delicious steak. My gosh, universe, I can taste the juicy, it's wonderful. You can do that until your last day. But if you don't take the action to go find the steak or order it to be brought to you, it's going to take a lot longer if it happens at all. And this is where the intuition comes in. This is where you say, yes, I had the most delicious steak of my life and it was so tasty. Intuition, where do I go next? show me the breadcrumbs. And you know what? You might get nothing. Your intuition might be, yep, flagged it, request received. And you might not get any immediate information. And I want to tell you that that's okay. Because 10 days from now, when you are walking through the streets of Austin, Texas, on this random trip that you took to go to this social media conference that you just felt really compelled to be at, and you booked it last minute, but now there you are, and you're walking down the street and you've got your bag and you're thinking to yourself, I just feel like I should turn right here. And you do. And as you turn right, you see a steakhouse and you think, I am kind of hungry. I think I'll go in. And then you eat the best steak of your life. You didn't have to force the steak, but you also couldn't sit in just visualization without taking the action of asking your intuition to show you where it is and then following the clues to get there. That's how the quantum leap works. That's how you collapse the timeline, collapse the energy field. Logic won't get you there. I just proved that to you for 6 months. I chose the logical path and it did not get me there. And I surrendered July 1st and said, universe, just show me how. And now everything is dropping into place, and it's going to drop into place bazillion times faster than ever before. It could be a 6-week transformation. It could be a 6-day transformation. It could be 6 hours. The thing is, my mind doesn't get to choose anymore. I'm being guided by my heart and by my future self, who already is paid to be a creative. I'm walking through Austin, taking that intuitive right turn and going, oh, wow, a steakhouse. That's how it works. There are things that you're going to have to do, like trust and intuition and have faith and do things that are uncomfortable and go through initiations that are incredibly uncomfortable to get to the other side. And you're going to have divine detours just the same as I did. They're going to shiny object syndrome you right off your path. And then you're going to come right back to it because you asked to stay on the path, and everything in this world is helping you do that. So every time you go off path, because your logic is logicking, your intuition, your heart, your support system, your guides, the universe is like, hey girl, we're over here. Remember? When you're ready, we'll be here. So if you are in a quantum leap season, if you're thinking to yourself, I really want to figure this out, the one last thing I want to remind you is you've done this your entire life. You are highly skilled and experienced in quantum leaping. You've been doing it all along. From the very first moment that you were born, there was a version of you who could walk. There was a version of you who can talk. There's a version of you who can drive a vehicle. There's a version of you who can insert whatever gift, skill, or talent that you have. And there was the day that you couldn't do it, and then the day that you could. That, my friend, is the quantum leap. We don't think about learning to walk as a little baby and visualize walking, and then it just magically happens. We stand up next to the table. We wobble around a little bit. We fall on our cute little diapered butt. We get back up. We do it again. This time, maybe we fall forward and mom saved us from smashing our head on the table. And we giggle because we're like, closer. And then we do it again. And then we do it again. And next thing you know, we're standing. We're just standing. And I mean, we're hella wobbly, but we're doing it. And everyone's like clapping. And we're like, but we haven't even taken a step yet. And they're like, but you're that much closer. Every single action that you take to move you in the direction of the dream that you desire is getting you that much closer. And the more you allow your heart to be your guide and connect to the future self who already has that thing, the faster you're going to move in that direction. But it is about embodying the identity. If you've never been an entrepreneur, if you've only ever been an employee, and you've only ever siloed yourself in one specific skill as an employee, going to be an entrepreneur, you learn all the other skills, or you hire people to do those other skills for you. And that is a skill, an initiation that you have to go through in order to embody the identity of an entrepreneur. But the quantum leap comes when you do it and you stay with it and you don't keep falling on your diapered butt and you decide, I'm going to figure this out if I have to stand here all day. Your devotion to the vision that you have seen, you have created that reality. But you have to cross through the initiations, the skill development, the uncomfortable things to get there. I see a lot of people talk about quantum leaping to becoming entrepreneurs, and they never learn how to sell. They never learn how to market. I don't want to do that. Well, then go get a job. Let this be a hobby. That is a completely acceptable answer. Completely acceptable. We live in a world of limitless possibilities. You can choose any of it. And so tap into that future self, the happiest version of you, success on your terms. And just notice, how is she supported? How does she make money? And follow that path. There's nothing wrong with having a job and building something that you feel really passionate about while you go through the initiations of the things you don't know how to do yet. The only person judging you is you. There's not a successful entrepreneur in this world who doesn't already get it because they had to do it too. So in closing, I just want to remind you, you've been quantum leaping your whole life. And I hope in listening to this episode, you have a better understanding of the actual mechanics, both from a spiritual perspective and from a very practical perspective. This is physics. This isn't just woo-woo magic. There is actual physics underneath this concept. And whether you use them or not is totally up to you. You don't have to quantum leap. The reality is you're already doing it. The moment that you decide to run a marathon for the first time, you start doing the things that you need to do to be able to run a marathon. That is the same process. There are certain things that your body needs to go through in order to prepare for that race that are just going to happen on the body's timeline. And so, yeah, we can collapse the timeline. We can collapse the field by choosing to tune into that future self and let her guide us every step of the way. But there's also still going to be things that are uncomfortable. And those things that are uncomfortable were never meant to be distractors, or actually, they probably could be distractors. They were never meant to be things that told you, no, you can't do this. They're just preparing you for the identity that you have chosen. And so see them for what they are, their growth, their experience. They're another notch in your belt that you now get to have that become a part of you so you don't make that mistake again. So you don't fall when you get to that part. So you don't think to yourself, I can't do this, when you've just in fact proven that you can. So that, my friend, is my long answer to the tiny thread that I read about what the heck is an actual quantum leap. And so I hope this was helpful for you today. I'd love to also offer, if you would like to explore quantum leaping and the identity shift that you're currently transitioning through and want to be supported in that process, I do have private intensives. This is something I know well. I am a Scorpio through and through. Transformation has been my vibe since I was born. And I've also studied alchemy with a shaman, and I understand both the energetics and the practical. So I'm not just going to give you the woo-woo answer. I'm going to give you the practical bridge to get there and will help you work through the human aspect of the quantum leap, because I think that is equally as important as the spiritual perspective of the quantum leap. So if that is something that you're interested in, drop into the show notes, book a session with me, and I look forward to working with you soon. Thank you for listening to the Lightworker Diaries. If something stirred in you today, take a breath and let it land. To go deeper, you can subscribe to the written diaries on Substack. You'll find a link in the show notes. Until next time, be true to you.